As we start to crawl our way back into the NFL season, it's now time to look away from the entirety of the NFL and take a closer look at my own team, the Atlanta Falcons. As most NFL fans know by now, the Falcons were ranked the team with the easiest schedule, and throughout this video, you'll see why. I'm about to go through the entire 17-week schedule of Atlanta and give you guys an estimated record of what's to come this season. All the NFL fans that watch this should take note of the matchups for each week and keep their own tally for the Falcons record. I want you guys to like the video, subscribe if you haven't yet, and comment below with the record that you predict the Falcons will reach at the end of the 2015 season. You can also make a side note of any major upsets or losses to any opponents as well. Just a side note, the week number and team will be displayed for each week, with the result of the game being shown in the lower right-hand corner. Assume every game is at home unless there's an @ symbol in front of the opponent's logo. I'm sure you guys will get the gist of it. In week 1, the Philadelphia Eagles traveled to the Atlanta Falcons. Talk about one of the toughest games of the season for the Falcons to play, and it just so happens to be in week 1. The first 4 weeks will be a tough stretch for the Falcons to overcome, but in this particular matchup, I think the Falcons will soar over the Eagles on national television in primetime to give Chip Kelly a bad taste in his mouth to begin this season. I am classifying this as my one major upset for Atlanta this season. In week 2, Atlanta travels up to the New York Giants. Atlanta isn't the best team on the road, especially traveling up north, but thank God that this game takes place in September, so weather should not be an issue. Trying to win the first 2 games of the season is hard enough for any team, let alone trying to win one at home and then turn around and win one on the road. I think the Falcons will do just that. Look for Atlanta to open up the season 2-0. Week 3, the Falcons try to take the hot streak into Arlington, Texas, and take on America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. As much as I would love to see the Falcons beat the Cowgirls, I just don't think that they will have the strength to pull one out of their asses in this game and suffer their first on-the-road loss to Dallas. In week 4, the Houston Texans hit the road to take on the Falcons in Georgia. If this matchup was being played in Houston, I would strongly consider the Texans to be a huge threat. Don't get me wrong, J.J. Watt is an amazing player, but the Texans still have woes at the starting QB position. I don't think the Texans will have what it takes to beat the Falcons in the Georgia Dome, letting Atlanta bounce back on their winning ways. The Falcons stay at home as they get a visit from the Washington Redskins in week 5. I'm sorry, but there's a few teams on this list that I just can't really say much about their play that I would just like to look off in the end, so I'm not going to say much about these teams. I think with Atlanta being home, this game is going to be a gimme. The last primetime game and the first divisional game for Atlanta comes in week 6 when they travel to the New Orleans Saints. This game is always much anticipated by all Saints and Falcons fans. Most of the time when I see division games for any team, I give them each a win and a loss for the 2 games that they play each other, unless the one team is much weaker than the rest of the division. Seeing as this game is a divisional game and it's a Thursday night game, I see Matt Ryan coming up just short to the Saints and having the Saints win by a field goal. Atlanta suffers their second road loss of the season. In week 7, the Falcons are back on the road again, and this time heading to Tennessee. The Titans are another one of those weak teams that I want to look off, as I stated earlier. With the Falcons using their pent-up rage from the loss to the Saints and having an extra long week prepare for this one, I don't see any outcome where the Titans pull out a win. In week 8, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers voyage north to the Georgia Dome to try to give Atlanta their 3rd loss of the season. They do not succeed. In week 9, Atlanta travels to the West Coast to take on the San Francisco 49ers. I do not know why, but I just have a bad feeling in my stomach when it comes to the San Francisco 49ers 2015 season. With the loss of Frank Gore and their defense falling out, I don't see how Colin Kaepernick can be the leader that they need him to be to pull off a winning record this season. This isn't a jab or stab at the 49ers fans. Every season there is a team that did well in the previous season and then dwindled off in the next. I think the 49ers are that team this year and really need another year, another draft class to get better of being a threat in the playoffs. The Falcons come up big in this one, going into the bye week with a win. Week 10 is when the Falcons get the week off, and they need it. So far, before the bye week, I have Atlanta sitting at 7-2. Coming off of the bye week, Atlanta heads into week 11 with the Indianapolis Colts barging down their front door. I think Indianapolis will be the team to beat in the NFL this season. This game is in the Georgia Dome, which lets me rest a little easier at night, but Andrew Luck and company are going to be bringing their A game, which spells bad news for the Falcons. Atlanta suffers their 3rd loss on the season and first home game loss. The stretch of the last 6 games look incredibly easy for the Falcons. 4 of the last 6 games are divisional games, meaning that the NFC South will be entirely determined in the last 6 games of the season, and everyone knows the saying, any given Sunday. In week 12, the Falcons bring the Vikings into their home to absolutely destroy them. Atlanta then takes a trip down to Tampa Bay, where we see the Bucs implode and the Falcons come out on top. Atlanta then goes back-to-back divisional games in weeks 13 and 14, but can they beat the Carolina Panthers in their own stadium? The answer is no. No, they cannot. This is a bad time to lose for the Falcons because the Panthers will be right there with them at the top of the NFC South. Week 15 is another one of those gimme games I mentioned earlier. The Jaguars aren't just there yet entirely. Thank God that Atlanta plays an away team this late in the season where it's warm year-round. Definitely better than traveling to Wisconsin in late December. Atlanta then finishes the 2015 season with back-to-back home divisional games. In Week 16, the Carolina Panthers are fighting for a playoff spot to try to get back into the wildcard contention. I just don't see Cam Newton being able to pull this one off like he did last season, giving Atlanta a win at home. In Week 17, the Falcons have made it this far and are staying at home when the Saints come marching into town. The Saints at this point are just fighting to get a winning record. It's okay to make bold statements like this. I have the entire 2015 schedule done for every NFL team for all 17 weeks, which will come out in a later video. The Falcons make up for the loss in New Orleans and pull out a win against the Saints in Atlanta. Closing out the 2015 season, I have the Atlanta Falcons finishing 12-4. Now, some viewers will say, oh, this shit is biased. Why should we even listen to this goon? He's just giving his team a great record, etc., etc., etc. Before those specific viewers post stupid-ass comments on this video about how the Falcons are shit, I want them to just comment what they think their realistic record can be. I want everyone watching this video commenting on it with what they predict the Falcons' 2015 record will be, along with any major upsets that they predict. If you do end up predicting the correct record, I'll throw a shout-out on your way at the end of the season in my Super Bowl video. That goes for everyone that predicts it correctly. As I stated earlier in the video, if you like this video and want more NFL videos to come through your feed throughout the season, then hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like the video as well if you enjoyed it. I have a few more videos planned before the start of the NFL season, including an entire breakdown of every conference, every division, and every game. I've carefully taken the time and sat down and gone week by week through the 2015 schedule to give the most accurate layout for teams making the playoffs and then picking the teams for the Super Bowl. All of this will be predicted in a video in the coming weeks before the start of the regular season, so definitely subscribe. I'm also working on reviving my series, The Top 5, so also be on the lookout for that. Until next time, dudeson.